And we're live.
Cool. All right. Hello, all. Welcome to the Brave Sound podcast. We have two very special guests today on the show, but first, let me back up a moment. This is the show where we uncover the stories, processes, and worldviews behind some of New York City's most creative and artful musicians. So, now I'd like to introduce our guests for today, Arta and Baden. Arta Jēkabsone is a singer, is a singer, composer, and arranger originally from a small town called Kandava in Latvia, and she moved to the United States to attend the New School for Jazz Performance. She has performed internationally at jazz festivals including Enjoy Jazz Festival, Montreux Jazz Festival, and the Bern Jazz Festival, and she has, to date, 2 records out. Her debut record, Light, as well as Yesterday Still Lies Between the Floorboards. Arta's musical horizons can be described as, quote, starting with simple Latvian folk song melodies, harmonies, and structures, and can reach to something more complex, more towards the world of improvisation. Now on to our second special guest, Baden Goyo, a pianist, composer, and arranger, originally from Venezuela. Baden graduated from the Lino Gallardo Music School and is considered one of the youngest and most promising figures in the Venezuelan jazz scene. He recently collaborated with Ruben Blades as a composer on Blades' album Salsa Big Band, which was awarded 2 Latin Grammys as well as 1 Grammy for Best Latin Tropical Album. He has his own record out as well called Magenta under the Baden Goyo trio. Whether you're already a diehard fan of one of these artists or this is your first time hearing about them and you like what they say, you can check out their duo project that will be featured this Sunday at 6 p.m. via live stream through the Brave Sound website. You can access the concert by going to bravesound.org/store and purchasing a ticket.
/shop.
/shop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Link is in the description of this YouTube video. Very easy to find. Yeah.
Yeah. So, welcome, Arta and Baden. Pleasure having you guys.
Thank you for having us. We're happy to be here and
Absolutely.
happy to have a conversation in outside music and beyond.
Yes, absolutely. So, I want to first ask you guys about how you guys discovered your shared musical chemistry.
That's a good question. So we both went to the new school, right? That's where I met Arta, and I'm not sure if I remember the first time we started doing music together. Probably was one of the common.
It was bebop. I
Bebop
think with
Harmony,
Dave
right?
Glasser, Bebop Harmony.
It was a group class, very fun, label Bebop Harmony, and the first time I heard the scatting, it was like really mind blowing. I think that's probably one of the most impressive features of
Certainly.
Arta. Yes, and then I guess we made a couple of sessions together featuring our original music, and that was very interesting because what I love about I discovered, I was fascinated to see that she's very close, or she has this appealing for rhythms that seems to be more Latin in some capacity. She had a very impressive background. Like her original music sometimes feature Brazilian rhythms, and I was like, wow, and that was for me something very cool because she's from Latvia, and it's a very interesting blend. So I guess we at some point
It just
we find
happened.
this common taste, I guess, for both harmony and rhythms, and since then we just started doing music together and collaborating.
Yeah, I think like the first time that we actually played together, besides the Bebop Harmony class, was your recital, because you composed Primavera, which is like the
Yes.
tune I loved, and like actually it's gonna be heard also on Sunday, and
Nice.
it's one of my favorite tunes. I was like, yes, like I'm loving this, like I'm digging this, but. And it's actually like interesting that Baden is mentioning the Brazilian like rhythms, and it's interesting, yeah, because I come from Latvia, like where there's no, it's like not so harmonically or like rhythmically like rich, like we have like folk songs which are very like plain. But then I got to the new school and like I took Brazilian ensemble with Richard Bucas, and it just like completely blew my mind off, because before I just like knew like, oh, bossa nova, like samba, but like very like light. And then this one of the teachers like introduced me to Hermeto Pascual, Sergio Santos, and I was like, this is like what I want to, like, this is what I want to explore. And and he gave me like some really hardcore tunes to read. I remember that was crazy. But and yeah, like then we started to play together, and just like hearing the way like how you create like the harmony and like the rhythm, it was like, yes, this is, I feel challenged, and I really loved it.
Yeah, I've actually I've subbed in this new school Brazilian ensemble with Richard Bucas before, and it's kind of a slap in the face, like, wow, this is beautiful. And like as a saxophone player, like there'd be just like a page after page of just like eighth notes, or 16th note, and just like no place to breathe anywhere. And you're you're just expected to hang.
I think I remember sorry, go
were
first.
You there?
I wasn't there, but I just like, I know the feeling, like, because he literally, like, it was the same with me. Like, I entered the first class and he gave me the sheet of music. I can't remember, but it was like very fast, and he's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, wow, the train is going. It was crazy.
Absolutely. It is like a train. It's like the samba stuff, the choro things. It's like it starts and it never stops, and it's just a beautiful way of composing melodies that are they're so notey, but they're so singable and memorable at the same time. Like I know you, Mike, you've been very into Brazilian music, and you've written a couple of tunes in that style. We're interviewing you, but what do you have any thoughts to contribute about Brazil? Because you're also from Long Island, but you've also started writing like some Brazilian stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I gravitated towards a lot. Also being exposed at Manhattan School of Music combos, I had the awesome opportunity of subbing in Elio Villafranca's Afro-Cuban ensemble, where he brought in some super cool tunes. Like when you were mentioning that whole like kind of slew of eighth note idea you were talking about, but it's still super melodic and lyrical melodies. It reminded me of this Hermeto Pascual tune that he brought in that was like super like crazy time signature changes and like crazy horn. Like I felt bad for the horn players that had to sight read that stuff. But yeah, it was just a beautiful tune, and I was like it kind of opened up a whole world of like, whoa, who's Hermeto Pascual, and I gotta check this guy out. And also in Rogério Bacato's, that's it's more specifically Brazilian ensemble, where he was teaching Brazilian rhythm specifically. And it's a whole world, and it's very cool. I love the rhythms there.
It is.
Yeah.
I remember once, because I was impressed seeing one of Arta charts, that she literally was super into it. At some point of the chart, it says like, we're going here to Partido Alto, which is
that's your everything.
Here, it's like, oh wow, like she really knows the thing. So super cool stuff.
I don't know. It's for some reason, like when coming here, like I thought like, I'm gonna be like studying like traditional jazz and like really like honing into the traditions, because like I come to New York. But then like when you come here, there's so much like diversity happening. Like you can go to a gig that's gonna be like more like standard based, like more modern jazz, like more like Brazilian music, more like South American, like from Venezuelan. So it's just like you get to expose to like so many things, and you're like, wow, actually I really do want to have like taste of everything, because I mean like all the things that we kind of study or we learn, it just comes in your music anyway. Like you absorb those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's this one gig I remember at the Zinc Bar. Austin, do you remember who?
Liz Rosa.
Right? Yeah, Liz Rosa. She has this gig
vocalist,
there.
dancer.
Oh, do you know her?
Everybody knows Liz.
I have a funny story. I have a funny story with her. Actually, I met her in Latvia. She was going for she was performing at the jazz festival at Rigas Ritmi, And the funniest thing with her was I was graduating from my high school, and I took one of her pieces that she made arrangement for Coisa Feita, and I took her tune, like her arrangement, and did it for my exam. And like the same summer when I was supposed to like graduate, she comes from this like for this jazz festival, and I go to her like, Liz, I actually did like one of your tunes, and we instantly became friends. And then I was like, yeah, like I'm heading to New York like in the fall. Oh wait, I'm gonna be there too. And like, so both of us like came at the same time here. And
wow,
it's just like crazy how like tiny this world is.
Yeah.
Met her in Latvia of all places. Wow.
That was in 2015. Yeah, the summer.
She's incredible. Like the energy that she brings to her lyrics and to her whole thing it's beautiful. Yeah. So what were you saying, Mike?
Oh, well, I was just saying that gig in particular, she always, I think she used to have it like a weekly thing at the Zinc Bar. And the Zinc Bar, they have a lot of international music there. So definitely checking out her group where you can really see like authentic Brazilian music being performed. It's just a whole nother thing, you know, like I remember like dancing there. And it's not really a dance club, but like you just gotta dance to that music.
Right.
Because Hey,
you got it.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to ask about Baden. So you grew up in Venezuela. How was your exposure to these rhythms? And we're talking about Brazilian music right now, but it's different than Venezuelan music,
yeah,
right?
it is. It's very different. Yes.
Yeah,
totally. So I've been always close to the traditional music from Venezuela because I grew up listening a bunch of music thanks to my dad. He's very, he loves music. He's not a professional musician, but he learned how to play the guitar, the cuatro. He's a very musical person with a huge background of listening stuff. So I was, I guess, navigating between Latin music, especially probably salsa and more like Caribbean rhythms, but also traditional Venezuelan music. So those were, I guess, my two influences. And then of course he also introduced me into the jazz world and jazz music, and I started listening all these pianists and groups. And I think probably the period in which I was more exposed was I got to play in a big band in Venezuela, which was called Simon Bolivar Big Band Jazz. And it was led by an extraordinary drummer. And, we were playing original arrangement from big band orchestras, like the original stuff from, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, but he also had got access to Latin jazz arrangement from Chano Pozo, like the old days of the big bands in different genres. So that was very cool, and even Brazilian music too. So I was very, I guess in those years, I got exposed to especially jazz and Latin jazz, including Brazilian rhythms. But I guess as answering more to your question, in Venezuela, there's a huge variety of rhythm tradition, and there's very crazy stuff, such as there's one rhythm we have, which is the Venezuelan merengue, that is traditional in 5/8. So it's probably I heard some of professors. There's one guy in Boston. He's professor of the Berkeley College of Music, very well-known and respected piano player, and I guess he's been more into the research, and it's probably one of the only rhythm in 5/8 in Latin America, because it's not really common. But we're mostly, I guess, close to doing things in 3. We have a lot of 6/8 rhythm, 3/4, and the blending of those. So yes, I guess for us, there's not really, I mean, there are, but I guess the traditional rhythms are more based in a base of 3 rather than 4/4 kind of time signatures.
And I think I would add to this, like, because it's very interesting, because like since I come from Europe, and like for me, like 3/4 like is more like association with a waltz, right?
Right.
So I came here, like somebody gives me like a 3, like that was also like in Lucas's class, like he gave me like a as I can't remember the tune, but basically something in 3. I was like, wow, that is a really like slow 3, like 3/4, and it was like, you know, like for some reason I just like never thought about it, but when you now like bring it up,
yes,
it's a different.
Absolutely. and you know, I feel there's always like a conversation in these as specifically in this rhythm, Venezuelan rhythms in 3, that they always go between 3 and 2, you know, between the binary and the and the 3, so it's very fun, you know. It's not it doesn't feel like waltz, like right, never. There's always like this binary thing in the middle, which is very flavorful, I guess.
I love that. I truly love that.
Right. And so a good friend of Mike and I is Juan Diego Villalobos, and I know you guys I was just talking to him yesterday, so he's on my mind. And I know you guys have been friends for a long time. And when I was studying in Amsterdam, I also met a lot of great Venezuelan jazz musicians. It was just crazy. So I'm just really curious why you think all these Latin American or specifically Venezuelan musicians are so adept both at their traditional music and at playing jazz, because if you take the other way around and take all these Americans and give them Venezuelan music, they're like fish out of water, you know, but you guys can hang in many contexts. And why do you think that is?
I think it's due to the rhythmic complexity, and you know, one of the features that I guess we develop the most is the ability to adapt and play in such different musical contexts. And I know this answer is shared by other musicians, but like I guess the complexity of the rhythms from the traditional Venezuelan music, it makes you solid gives you a good foundation to address other streams of music. I would say it's probably not the richest in terms of harmony, and that's where I guess we are more interested by the jazz world.
Wow.
But I think in rhythmic terms, it's really complex, and I guess it builds in, you know, all these guys have a very strong rhythmic foundation that allows you to address other genres of music.
I think it also like something like with the feel, because like when you're playing like, I mean, merengue, it's not like tight, you know, like it's not, there's like this groove, but like it comes also from some kind of feel, and it's the same with swing. Like it's not on 2 and 4, it's like somewhere in between, kind of like it's on 2 and 4, like theoretically, but like it's the feel. And I think that's like something that I think like having that feel inside of your body helps like to be able to feel like other things, you know. I don't know.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned that like you don't have like any like rich harmonical like foundation, and because for like Latvian music, like it's nor like rhythmically like rich, and nor also like harmonically. It's what we do is like we. Yeah, I think like we're more like really like melody people.
Yeah.
Could you give an example of maybe some Latvian folk melodies? I don't want to make you sing right now, but like if you want to, I'm just really curious about that culture, and if you could just fill us in about some of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one of the common would be actually the one that Austin did the playing. Then lighting new eyes and money. It's like very like diatonic, but then like, what we do have is like natural minor. Instead of like using harmonic minor or like melodic minor, we would use everywhere like natural minor. And that I think that's actually an interesting thing, because I haven't seen a lot of traditional music like using more natural.
That's cool.
I don't know.
Why do you think that is?
Honestly, it's I don't know. I think maybe because we were like so honestly, like with this whole like Latvian folklore, like like how the music, how it started actually was interesting. And now I made like probably like a good analysis that way back, like how the music was written, basically a person walked from house to house and like wrote, like transcribed what the person was singing, like in terms of like lyrics and in terms of melodies. So there was like no harmony. And I think that's how, like, why we got like so rich in like in the melodies, because like there was like one folk song could be like sang in different areas, like basically one poem could be sang like in different versions. You can, it's different melodies for one poem. And I think maybe that's the reason like why we have like a lot of like interesting like melodies, but still like using the very like plain harmonical ideas.
Right.
I don't know. And we're we're actually like a choir singing like culture. We have Latvian song and dance festival, and I think like that's how the first music was written, like more for the choirs. We had like a lot of composers who wrote choir music, and I think it's actually, I could say that I think it's still the strongest form of music in Latvia, like the choir.
Really?
Sure.
Oh, so that form of musical training was emphasized, you would say, at a young age for you?
It was, because like all of us had choirs we had to go to, and I mean I kind of got in a way lucky or unlucky, because I wasn't able to go to the choir because I had to go to the music school where I played violin and piano, and like I had all the training. But I was exposed also there, and like my mom used to sing at home like Latvian folk songs with me. It was just, like
everywhere.
Like in the evenings, so I grew up with that.
Well, a little bit of background about how I met Arta is, we were just talking about this the other day, but I was just checking out some friends playing music at this jazz club in New York called Silvana, and it was a bunch of new school people. Very fun, very fun music. And I was listening to Arta for the first time, and like she was singing very virtuosically with like beautiful tone and all these things. But these are things I've heard before. I live in New York. I hear tons of great singers, but then she sang this Latvian folk song and arranged it for the group, and that was something like I've never heard a jazz singer do in my life. And I was pretty into, I've always had a fascination with folk music, so to see somebody who is so like the real thing, like just randomly in Silvana, which is just this kind of dingy club in Harlem, it really caught my attention.
Latvian folk music, what?
right.
Exactly, right. So I got her information. We ended up doing a project together, and it was really, really enjoyed working with you, Arta. But also when I started looking into the Latvian folk tradition a little bit, these Latvian national song and dance festivals, they're mind-blowing. It's like how thousands of people gather and they sing their country's folk songs just like in unison. No, not even in unison, in like several parts of harmony. It's just massive crowds. They all know like these nationally recognized arrangements, I guess, because everybody's learned them in choirs.
Yeah, because those are like literally from way back, like in 19th and 18th century, even I would say, like 19 and 20, somewhere in those. No, 20. Sorry, like math. But like this is like one of the biggest like things. And but it's not actually funny, because like the Latvian Song and Dance Festival not only happens in Latvia, it's also like in the United States, in Canada. I was last year actually I was participating in the Canadian Latvian Song and Dance Festival.
Oh, beautiful.
It was huge, and I think the next one is coming up, I think in Minneapolis in 2022 or 23rd. I think they're like now trying to like reschedule because of the COVID. But it's a huge thing, and it's when you go there, when you're singing there, like in being like one of those thousands of people who just like sing these choir songs,
It's magical.
it's like the power. It's like
right.
wow.
Yeah,
but even when you sit as a listener, the same. It's just somehow like the energy just like circulates back and forth, and you feel like you're a part of that.
Yeah. The human connection that we really need right now, huh?
Oh God, yes.
But if anybody's who's listening is interested, just YouTube Latvian National Song and Dance Festivals, and you will see all these videos of just crowds and like perfectly sung harmonies. It's like it's one of the coolest things I ever saw on the internet. So that's why. Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Wow.
But what about the other half of this? Like you say, you're more choir and singing and melody driven, but the festival is called Song and Dance Festival. Can you describe what rhythm there is and what type of dances there are in your country?
So we have, I think it's also kind of like more like European. We have like polka.
Okay.
We have polka. We have like some traditional dances like toodling tagading. You can sing it and you can dance it together. It's like, I've never been like, I've never like danced those dances because I always like was on the musical side, like doing the music or like offering to like sing while they're dancing. But it's, polka, they're like very specific names that, I'm so bad like with knowing them. I can show you the dance if you want to. Oh God. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna show the feet, right? But
yeah. You might want to take the lav, unclip that because it's gonna pop.
Oh, really? Oh, it's gonna be a slow dance.
Okay.
So like your hands are on your hips, and you do like tugading, tagading, and then you clap your hands like pastalniaki dansu, and then you turn around, and then you do it again like tudeling, tagading, pastalniaki dansu. You turn around, and then the polka starts, and like then there's like several like versions because you're usually doing that with a partner, so it's like two of you, and then like either you do like polka like titser vizem, titser kurpem, titser pasagayam, or like in a cross like titser vizem, titser kurpem, titser pasagayam. I'm gonna send it to you, but so this is like this. This is this like.
We're doing a number like that on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll join in.
Exactly.
Honestly, like if I like now start to think like we only have at the moment I can think of like one song that's like in 5/8 from the Latvian folk songs, which is like Derbe saule sudraboten nobrod stāvi preciniek, Derbe saule sudraboten nobrod stāvi preciniek. Yeah, like most of them are like 4 or some of them are in 3. It's interesting. It's really like beautiful, but to be honest, I think also like more I started to like engage with these things. You know, like when you're a kid, you listen to those things, but you don't like understand the value because like it's a part of your culture, like you just know it. But then when I came here, I was like, man, I really miss like Latvian inside of me.
Yeah.
And then I started to like dig more in these like folk songs, and then I was like, you know, why don't I just like take some of those things and like make it my own way, like add some you know, some different flavor, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. I think like every single concert that I do, like mainly I always like threw something in from like from Latvia.
That's right.
And it's actually like interesting because like I always like I'm always like a little bit like not insecure, but like more like how will people like receive this, you know, because like sometimes when you go like, oh, like I'm doing my Latvian thing, it's like, oh, like I'm super proud, but I'm like always like more like I hope that people will like understand that there's just like a flavor of who I am, like what's the story of like where I'm coming from, and but always like it's been super like nice, and people have been like very like even like without understanding the lyrics, they kind of already like know
connect with,
what you're
doing. Absolutely.
That's so interesting.
And
the power of music.
Yeah, certain. And even if you're not singing a Latvian folk song. This background that you have and the tone that you've developed from, you know, your training and your background, it all comes through when you're singing standards as well. You know, when I've hired you to sing standards for me, and you're scatting, and you're thinking about Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday and these people, but you sound like something I've never heard, you know. And the same thing with Baden as well, you know, or all these incredible jazz musicians that have been coming out of Latin America. Is they bring their own interpretation to jazz, and it's just like the most beautiful exchange that's happening there.
Thank you.
You want to jump in, Mike?
Sure, yeah. So Arta, I thought it was really interesting what you were saying about how when you came to the United States, you kind of wanted to firm up your roots in Latvian culture. Is it the same with you, Baden? Did you feel like you wanted to bring or firm up your roots more in where you were growing up when you came here?
Yeah, definitely. Before coming here, I was already trying to explore what Arta mentioned about taking stuff from the traditional folk music of Venezuela, but doing it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I think there's a very rich rhythmical background that we have, and that I feel it could be more explored probably from the harmonic standpoint. So that was a little bit the job I started doing when composing. I would take probably some of these rhythms, but the compositions were in harmonic terms were more inclined towards jazz harmony. So I started doing this blend, and when I came here, I found, same as Art is saying, that for some reason, I guess there's authenticity in that, and people, when you do that, people connects with it.
Yeah.
You know, even if they haven't listened to those rhythms before, there's something that connects, because I guess it's authentic from your tradition, and that's probably one of the reasons why people get that connection when you do something from your culture.
And it's also because like that's something you cannot like fake it in a way, because you know, like it's like it's a play. It's playing you, like you came from the fields, you came from the river. It's just like it's just like I think like that's how it goes. And it's actually like very interesting. When I was doing my final like senior recital at the new school, and one of the teachers, Rory Stewart, who was amazing, also guitar player, he was like taking notes from my exam, and he wrote like one of the things like when I hear your music or like hear like any of your arrangements, I just like instantly like think about these landscapes and about like the nature. And I was like, wow, that's like so interesting. Because in a way, like where I even like get my ideas, that's from nature. And because I grew up in a town where I was like surrounded by trees and river, and like I used to like walk along like the river. You know, it's just all those things just like forms who you are.
It's wonderful that somebody can see that connection, right? Through the music.
And it was interesting because I kind of like I always like I do music because it's just like it feels right. And sometimes I think about like these like okay, I want to specifically like think about this thing and like write that in. But it's so interesting that sometimes when you even like don't think about that, like somebody else like sees like, oh, I see this Latvian mountain in your composition, like somewhere somewhere there, or like the sun, or like all these things.
I think it's pretty fascinating how you guys have such a strong individuality or characteristic, because you guys are from these different cultures. And I remember going to MSM to people that want to find their individuality, or want to or feel like they've lost touch with their original culture or their roots, and they're trying to find them to have more of a voice in the music they create and express themselves with. And I don't know if that's just like an American problem of having that as an issue, but I think Austin, we've spoken about that as well too. And I wonder what your perspectives are about that, like finding your individuality, and if you guys ever weren't sure about where you come from, and even Austin, if you want to chime in too. This is a cool conversation.
Yeah.
Do you guys understand what I mean when I say that?
It's a very deep. It's really truly a deep question. It's like hard to answer, but I'm not thinking. I'm trying to like think about.
No, it's very deep indeed.
I mean, honestly, I think for me, like how it happened, like why I think like I started to like more, like why I started to like more tune in like where I come from, like where are my roots, is because I was outside of my country, like outside of, you know, like when you get outside of the usual place where you are, you start to question about, like you want to find out like, okay, like where do I belong? Why? It's like all these things that like naturally just like comes in for the person, and in a way it's kind of like you're being outside of your comfort zone, right? Because you're in a different environment, like you have like nobody here. It's like this is how I came here, like I had nobody, I didn't know anybody, and that was the moment for me. Okay, like I don't have anybody around, like, but where can I find like these people like to kind of like connect with? But then I realized I have to start with myself. So who am I? This is really like an existential like question, but I think that those kind of things I think really helped me to understand like who I am as a person, who am I as a musician, who am I, these like different like positions, like in terms of like a group of people that I am. But yeah, I think it's like going like out, like being in the world and exploring like different places where you're like with whom you're not familiar with. You start to like get familiar with yourself. At least that's how it worked for me, I guess.
Absolutely.
Because I think if I would have stayed in Latvia, I would never be able to really understand like how important like my Latvian culture is to me, and especially like how much it really like comes through the song. Yeah.
So would you say that when you were trying to figure out like who am I, what makes me an individual, what makes me a unique artist, you found that answer not by crafting some voice, but by just analyzing what you already are?
Yeah, and I think because you also, I mean, like every single situation you go through, like humans, like we learn, we all the time like grow from different situations, from different like musical situations that we've been put in together, like in, right? So I think it more really comes from like your inner self, because I mean, if you even like listen to like any big artist like Herbie Hancock or like Wayne Shorter, what they talk about is like knowing yourself, like understanding yourself. It all comes from you as a human, because you can have like all the muscle and all the virtuosity, like chops, but if it doesn't like connect with who you are as a person, I think it's just not gonna
like empty.
Yeah, it's gonna be empty. I mean, like it's gonna sound beautiful and like great, but I think like there's always gonna be this unsatisfaction with like yourself, like okay, like something is wrong, like I'm not feeling something. I feel like everything is there, but like this one piece is missing. And I don't know, like I'm a very also like a spiritual person in that kind of sense. I really need to like have these conversations with myself, because that's how I move forward, like to other things that I want to do, I guess. That's
beautiful.
I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I've had thoughts of like really delving deep into Chinese culture, and there's, you know, millennia of history there, musically and in literature and in art and in government and dynasties, and you know, it's one of the oldest cultures on earth. But it's really out, but it doesn't really feel like authentically where I come from either. Like I grew up in a suburb of Texas. You know, I hardly speak my own language enough to get by. And so I was thinking for a time, like maybe I need to get back to my roots and discover this, but it's not the same thing as for example, you two who grew up in your native backgrounds and were so influenced by that from the time you were born. Like I kind of shunned the Chinese side of me until I was like probably in college or something. You know, I was just trying to assimilate into America and just not be different. And now that I'm an artist, I'm like, oh wow, there's not a lot of Asian American jazz musicians. I guess that is different. And how deep do I want to go down that road, or like, do I want to make that a part of how I present myself? That's been a strange struggle for me. But I think I've come to a similar conclusion where it's like I shouldn't have to craft or like study to be me. Like, I'm already me. I just need to, you know, I need to think about that more.
I think it's like embracing yourself and like, you know, like allowing yourself to be who you want to be, or like who you are. Like, don't judge yourself by who you are, because like we're all people. Like we're living human beings. It's just I don't know. It's like, this is like the conversation that like, I mean, I know that like I'm very like insecure. I can be very insecure, but at the same time, how can I try to like let that voice like go outside of me and like don't like impact what I do musically, or like in any other like life situations, right? It's very hard. Like, and I think this is a now I like talk like a Buddha.
Yeah,
but it's like
love
no,
it.
but honestly, I think it's like we always like are on the path of like discovering ourselves. You know, we're never gonna be like full something, like full bloom. I don't know, but
Right.
And I think that's actually the beauty of life, and that's also like the beauty of music, because you know you're never gonna be like fully like ready for anything. You're always like
Absolutely
looking for something.
There's this artist that I just discovered. I've been studying with this guy, Jeff Mann, who's a drummer for Consider the Source. It's like a jam band. My sister's really into him. And he was showing me this guy named David Fiuczynski. And it's like jam music, but it also David Fiuczynski, I don't think he's of any Asian background, but he's very influenced by I guess Chinese scales, and you can hear that in his music. And going back to your point, Austin, I think it's so interesting how like some people just feel drawn to that even when they don't come from that culture at all. Kind of like Arta, when you came to the United States and you got exposed to Brazilian music and you found it really fit in with you, and it's just interesting how that can happen as well, especially and especially with something like Asian music, which is I don't think taught too much at a lot of conservatories, like especially jazz not at all.
Zero.
Maybe Berkeley or bigger institutions.
I mean, Pat Bartley has his J music ensemble as well. There's a lot of examples of this. I think video game culture has been a big thing for the Japanese thing, but Chinese is pretty rare. I don't see too many Westerners that like deep into Chinese music, so I have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll send you some things. Please. But it really is, it makes it sound quite unique when people, I mean, of course it has to be a place of authenticity. You can't try to sound unique by going towards different cultures and be like, I'm gonna sound like this, you know, but it's just it makes him unique as an artist, and every one of us, based on the cultures we check out. I want to ask you guys specifically about some of the albums that you guys have out, and maybe if you can discuss a little bit about them. I've listened to them; they're beautiful. The works that you have, Arta, I believe you have 2 albums out, right? Lights, and you also have Yesterday Still Lies Between the Floorboards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Baden, you have out Magenta. So could you guys just talk maybe a little bit about that, about the process of making the records, any songs that you really want to talk about in some of them as well?
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess I'll start by connecting the previous idea that when I played in this big band that I mentioned before, we were playing the music of great composers and artists, right? So, and we were doing a specific dose arrangement, although there's always room for individuality in the improvisations. We were a written arrangement. So I felt the moment in which I start feeling more freedom and like really finding a voice is when I start composing, because that was different from playing someone else's arrangement. It was like literally playing the stuff I was hearing in my head. So and I think that's very related with at least for me in the process of discovering who I am and what are the things that I like to do. I found that through composition. So Magenta is an album that comes from that time when I started writing my own stuff, and I began experimenting with the fusion of rhythms from Venezuela. So in the album, there's one of the songs that is a Venezuelan merengue, which is the 5/8 rhythm I mentioned before. There's some sort of adaptation and experimentation, I guess, with a rhythm that is more like 6/8 or 12, sort of 12/8 feel, but I made it 11. So I play with also making things that are traditionally in that way, trying to experiment with odd measures. I did arrangements of songs that might be considered part of the Venezuelan Songbook, if you would, but I did it in with a new approach, more probably based on, that's one of the songs, which is one of my favorite of that album, is called La Dama de la Ciudad. That's original from a well-known artist, songwriter, and everybody knows the song, but I did this really crazy approach. At some point I was wondering myself, like, like I totally screwed up the song. Like, well, like if you listen to it, he will either love it or hate it, because I really was like recomposed the whole thing, created dams. But anyways, I was having fun with the idea of doing things differently, and that was I guess the mood and the process that I was when Magenta came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting. There's a lot of individuals within the broader folk culture, just like we were talking about Hermeto Pascual. I mean, certainly, like, I don't think anybody would call him solely traditional.
No.
But also, Chucho Valdez or Paquito de Rivera. So even within the folk cultures, there's room for roots and innovation and individuality. So thanks for sharing that approach on Magenta. That's very interesting.
I'm not trying to I'm trying to think about light, how it was for me. Like, it definitely was I mean, it was kind of like my 2-year sum up, starting to be in New York City and meeting all the beautiful people that I've met throughout my past in that time, and still am. And I was more trying to explore myself also through original music and really tuning into myself and kind of allowing the story be the one who kind of leads the songs, the music itself. And I particularly wanted to have light as as a name, because it symbolizes for me different things. It symbolizes for me light as sun, which would be the Latvian culture, because there's a lot of sun always shining, but also it's basically in symbols, it's inside of the symbols. And I wanted to give a hope for people, because after at the end of the tunnel there's always a light somewhere coming in, we're giving a hope. And then also light as light being lightweighted, something that can easy be listened to, because I didn't want to over complex things. I just want them to I want people, when they listen to music, for me with this album, it was I want people afterwards go into their day and smile and be we have a hope, everything's working out, or
positive.
Positive. And it was funny because the next year, after, it's gonna be 3 years in 16th of December. Wow. 3 years. And I remember the big Olympic sports games, the next year they called the Year of Light after I released the album. So it's these tiny little things that started to happen inside of the world as well. People kind of needed this brighten up their day somehow. And I intuitively or instinctively thought about sharing something that really that I need, that I want to like give to people. So yeah, like I think like more of this album was more like storytelling, like having all my experiences in New York here, like bringing them in this one place in this album. And
I think The Light was such a good name for the album because because when I heard it, I just thought optimism, positivity, just
Same.
like
Same.
you know, and light is the best is the best overall term that you could have used just to make such a nice theme for the whole album. Could you talk about some of the specific songs? Like I wanted to maybe talk about Shadows and Light off that record, the meaning behind that.
Oh God, that's an interesting tune. I mean, it's actually like probably like one of the most like, it was completely like different from the whole album because it's more like a popish type of a tune, right? But at the same time, like, but the way how the guys played it, I think it like really took out the pop because it was just like their sound and like their way. Because like literally when I played it on the piano, I was like, yeah, like this is a very a pop tune. I mean, I'm not against pop, like not at all. But yeah, like I felt like probably it's gonna be like super different. But when we played it the first time, like in a recording studio, I was like, oh my God, it has to be in. But for this song, there is actually like a little story behind it. I was in Montreux Shore Jazz Academy like in 2017, literally before like I recorded the album, and I met amazing like musicians that I got to work with together, and it was Kurt Rosenwinkel, Marcus Miller, Yaron Herman, like the piano player from Israel, like Ziv Ravitz, then also Trila Gurtu and Elina Duni, she's a vocalist, and like I was working with them the whole week, and especially like somehow like a really beautiful connection I formed with Kurt Rosenwinkel, and because like I helped him with some of the vocals for the Kaipi band. Like I was kind of like doing some vocal coaching for them while they were in New York. And then like the way like the whole 2 weeks that I spent with the whole band, it just, I don't know, like this, I think that song just came out because of the reason that like the time we all spent together, and we talked a lot about like the universe, we talked about a lot about like light and like shadow and all these things, and I was like, you know, it's just like I sat down the piano and this tune just like literally like came out like
It's amazing.
just like I didn't have like to like rethink it. It was like, you know, let me just do it, because you
That's
know,
amazing.
I don't know, it just came, like I have like these things that sometimes the music just like comes out, and yeah, like that's what actually happened to like Shadows and Light. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's also one standard on there, right? There's only one standard, 4. So does that standard have any special significance for you to include it?
Oh yeah, well yeah, I mean like the meaning of the 4, all what you need in life is happiness, truth, honesty, and one thing more, love. You know, and I for some reason, like I did this also tune at the Montreux Shore Jazz Voice competition, and I was like, I think this is kind of like a significant tune for myself, like how I see the life, you know, and that's how I actually like I usually like bring out the tunes. Like I want to like definitely sing something that I feel I can connect with, and I can be the most honest, so I don't have to like fake it until I make it. Even though like sometimes, you know, like it helps, but I think like but for me like music is not something that you can fake it.
Absolutely.
No, it just it's the
That's beautiful. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for anyone that hasn't checked out, when I was checking out the 4 track on that album, it's just like chorus after chorus of vocalies, right? It's very,
I was
very
listening
cool.
to it yesterday, actually.
Yeah, it's very cool. You wrote all the lyrics?
No, this is John Hendricks. It's the original Miles Davis solo, and then he wrote like vocalies on it, and yeah, and I just did it because I really connected with it, and he's actually also like one of my like heroes that just like vocalies wise is just like blowing my mind every single time when I listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did this project come from a place of, because you were talking about this feeling of lightness and light at the end of the tunnel as a message a lot of people needed. Is that what you were going for with this project? You wanted to make something people needed, or was it more I needed this, or the collision of the two?
I think the collision of two, because I think because I always like you know me, like and you also like know me. I'm always like very like so like smiling and happy and
very positive, very happy.
I mean, I do have my like
You're like a happy minion.
I have my like. I am like that, I know. But I mean, I do have like my rainy days, I would say, like when I feel like, oh my God, everything is not so bad, but like bad. But then, you know, like when it comes to not so bad or bad, but then when it comes to music, it's like when I do music, like suddenly like everything just like falls into place, and I feel like, oh my God, like I'm the luckiest person on the whole universe, because I get to play the music that I love. I get to play it with the people that I love. And I can share like every single emotion that I have inside of me. I can like put it inside of music and just like literally like give it to other people, and like just like share it with them and like see what is the reaction, you know, like so I think like the particular like moment for me, in that moment when I was like releasing light or like working on it, it was just, I think like it was like more thinking about like the people in general and the place I was like surrounded, like environment wise. I felt like this is what I felt like. I think this is what we all need, some more hope. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So also I wanted to go back to Baden's album Magenta. I wanted to ask one question about that. Is there any significance to you choosing Magenta as the album name?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess I have these feelings sometimes when I wrote songs that they resemble to a specific color. You know,
oh yeah.
Yes.
You're one of those.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Synesthesia.
Right. So like that's what happened, and there's one song of the album that is actually Magenta, right? This is the one that blends Afro-Venezuelan rhythms, which is a beautiful universe of, you know, it's great. I hope probably we can share later on like folk music from that tradition, from the Afro-Venezuelan, because that's probably more the Caribbean side of our culture. So and I think they're really unique rhythms, you know. So that was, I guess, the focus that I was more interested in exploring, like that blend between, you know, how can I do Afro-Caribbean rhythms, Afro-Venezuelan rhythms mixed with harmony. So Magenta is that song in the album, and I don't know, as I said, I tend to associate certain keys or just the general flavor of the composition with colors, and I felt that was the case with Magenta.
Very nice.
Yeah,
it's very funny. I know several people who are like that, and the people who do tend to associate with colors, they feel so. Every person I've met with, I guess the word for it is synesthesia, is like they feel so strongly about it, and they'll like fight about D flat is blue and like
It's actually pink. It's pink.
right.
E is so bright. What are you talking about? It's orange. No, it's green. What do you mean?
Oh my God! Like put them all like in one group like of people. Oh, it's gonna be very colorful. Yeah, I mean the only time when I've actually like seen colors, and I really specifically I listened to Bobby McFerrin's album Vocabularies with like all of these multiple beautiful singers, and it was like a dark room, but like my eyes were closed. It was like back in high school when the first time when my teacher like gave it to listen to me, and then I saw like a lot of like like colors just like in front of my eyes, and that was the moment I think like, am I having like is it starting to happen to me as well?
Is that how it feels?
Yeah, but honestly, I think it's something different. Yeah, it's the same. I think like with the perfect pitch, probably.
Oh right.
Well,
Arta, I wanted to ask you as well because Baden spoke. He got introduced to jazz through the big band and experiences stemming from that. But you, that is so wild. Like, how did this Latvian singer become interested in the American Songbook and things?
And everything. Oh wow. Well, it's interesting. Well, I was a classically trained violinist. That was like my first instrument that I played until the age of 15. But like I always like sang. When I was a kid, I sang like folk songs, like Latvian pop music more, and I went for competitions like doing that stuff. But around like when I was 11, 12, like when I was like kind of becoming a teenager, one of my music teachers, she asked me if I would love to go to the workshops. And I started the workshops, and she said like, it's gonna be like more talking about jazz. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I went there, and the teacher that I had was Inga Bēzņa, which is a phenomenal Latvian jazz singer. With I think every singer, like jazz singer who go through her, always like ends up doing like more music and jazz and all these other things.
Okay.
And she puts like really like solid foundation into that. But then I met her at this workshop for the first time, and she asked me like, without like, I had like no clue what is blues. I had no clue what is like 2/5/1s. So she asked me like to sing like scat, and I even didn't like what scat is. So she asked me to scat over like the blues, and I do something like that, and I was like, wow, I really. Well, it really was like that in my little tiny voice, but and I improvised over the blues, and I was like, wow, how much I love improvising, how much I love creating like music on the spot, like having instant compositions. So for me, like jazz is like more like an instant composition on the spot. Like this is how I feel this music. It's like it's a moment for me.
Yeah.
And like I did it for the first time, and then like until the age of 16, I was every single year going back to these workshops, learning about jazz. But the most funniest thing was, so that was the first time interacting with jazz, and then the next year I went to this different workshop with Gerald Clayton.
Oh wow!
I had that was the first time I was like, wow.
In Latvia?
It was in Latvia with Joe Sanders and Justin Brown. It was a trio. Yeah.
They come to Latvia. They don't come to Texas.
Yeah, we do have like I think it's the biggest Baltic state festival. Like in Baltic states, like Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, and like Riga Sveikme is the biggest festival where a lot of. I mean, that's how I mainly also got introduced to jazz, like knowing some of these artists. Like a lot of people I heard there, but yeah, like specifically Gerald Clayton, he was leading a workshop. I had my old Nokia phone, which had like the recording device. So I'm sitting inside of this master class, and at the end, he's like, he's talking about like the music, about like the way of composing, and I was literally like 12 or 11, and I mean, probably he shouldn't be hearing this, or like none of you, but that's okay. So basically, he's playing the music, and I record every single tune he played from his first record, the Bond. It was like 3 tunes, and this is how for a long while I listened to that. Those were my jazz reference tunes. He's 3 tunes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, like, and I think like that's how I really like I got it inside of this. Like I really love the possibility to like improvise, to create something on my own, even though like it's based on like a rigid structure, and like there's theory behind that, but you can still somehow like you can break the rules.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah,
it's
so
awesome.
that was me.
It's awesome that you can trace it back to such specific people who are all still alive and active. Like that just to me illustrates the importance of mentorship and giving back to the youth and all these things, because these people just doing what they did, they gave you literally like a focus for your life. That's so awesome. And I definitely could say the same. I don't know if as specifically, but people come to mind. Baden, do you want to jump in with some of these important mentors in your life? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Same as Arta was mentioning about these teachers you had. There's one very important guy in Venezuela, and his name is Gerry Weil. So he's been like the teacher of the last 4 or 5 generations of musicians in Venezuela, and it's quite amazing. I mean, he's super wise man. He's in his 80s right now, but I think he's been wise the whole life.
I think he posted it. Instagram I saw. I was
like, wow. Getting to study with Gerry is definitely a bigger experience than just learning about music. It's really learning about life, and he's one of my great mentors. And I think everybody shares this feeling, like every single person that has been through his mentorship. I know I'm talking for them as well. He's such a beautiful person and master, and how to guide you. And it's interesting because there's do you guys, I guess this piano player, of other guys here in New York, and Luis was one of his first students.
Whoa,
so he's from a different generation of him, but we came from the same mentor, which is Gerry, and he's done this with countless people, brilliant musicians. It's like inspiring this love for music and in general. Not, of course, he's a jazz musician, but I guess he inspires just this bigger feeling of love for music and for life at the same time. So he's definitely a very important figure.
I think for like relating to you, like my completely like first teacher, voice teacher, he was a trumpet player. He was kind of like more like a classical musician, but he was like always like curious and interested in jazz. And I remember like the first lesson when I was 5 years old, like that was the first lesson that I had with him. And the first lesson we sat down, like he said like to me, well, the thing you're going to learn with me is going to be how to love the music. That's what I want you to learn, is like how to actually like love. And I sat with him like for 5 hours. Imagine like a 5-year-old kid who would just like run around, and like I was a monster. But like with him, I was able to sit like for 5 hours. We would sing songs, we would like play, we would improvise. And I think he just knew how to like unlock this like key for love to music. And I don't know, like if this person wouldn't be in my way, like he was like a father to me as well, like a second dad. And I think I got like very lucky to I think I've always been very like lucky with the people, with these sort of mentors that come into my life. They come in the moment when I'm searching for answers, and when I specifically like need specific things. And also the same was actually with Guillermo Klein. I can never like Guillermo. I studied with him at the new school my last semester, and he also like opened me like compositionally, and also as a musician so much like in a different like path. And I think I'm very like thankful to like every single person that I've crossed my path with, who just like we're there at that moment. But there's a lot of people that I can just
well, one more I think might be common to both of you coming from New School is probably Reggie Workman kind of comes to mind.
Of course.
He's kind of the mantle of, he's the name I hear mentioned most when I talk to New School friends about like who is the most giving and influential person for you there. Do either of you guys have any Reggie stories?
Oh wow, I do. I mean,
okay.
It's happening.
Right.
It was like, let's
when the band was swinging.
Yeah,
so it's like, it's happening.
But but it was funny. Like that was the first ensemble with him. I took Coltrane ensemble. My first semester, the guys. I was like basically with seniors like Michael Konaki and
yeah, right.
Oh
right.
my God! Like it's like so many like beautiful people, and like they were all like seniors. And I come into this like, hey, yeah, like I'm a first semester student, and I would love to sing Coltrane. Like Reggie looks at me, like, is she really gonna sing Coltrane? I said, well, he's like, so what would you like to sing, young lady? And I'm like, well, I mean, I could sing like Coltrane, like Resolution. He looks at me like really, Resolution? But I said, in key of C, not the key of I mean, so like that would be like the best, the better tonality for me, because I did like Coltrane's, like I did it in my high school exam. I did the transcription by Kurt Elling, so I was like, I know it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know that song.
Yeah, but I mean, like I've always been like more interested like in Coltrane's music, and it's also because like the way he like speaks about music, the way he is, it's again like it comes through spirituality, like right. He's getting the band together, he's playing the music, and he will wait for the moment until like it's like going somewhere, and then he's gonna bring it somewhere else. And that's what also like Reggie was one of the stories that he told about like Train.
Were you aware on that first day of class that Reggie was in the Coltrane Quartet?
I was, and I was like, I had like a moment to just like, wow, like I'm like standing with a person, like I'm in the same room with this person who literally just, who was like playing with Coltrane a lot. And he would also, it was like so interesting. After we played the tune, we finished the tune, and he says like, well, John would play like this, you know, and it's like this feel like wow, like John. Like God, it's just because I mean like, you know, it's I have goosebumps, but the way, I mean like another person, like the way how he just, you know, talks about music, how much he cares, how much he really wants to give us the students or like any artist like this the purpose of doing it, right? Like he's a special person for me. Like really, I'm very like happy that like I crossed with him, and especially in my first semester, also because he encouraged me to like write more lyrics for songs, because before that I didn't do that. I was never good at that. I was like always like avoiding, like no, I don't want to write lyrics. But because he kind of asked me to like write lyrics for Naima, for the not for the Naima, but for the there was McCoy Tyner though, but Aisha.
Oh,
yeah.
He asked me to like write lyrics for that, and then also for the Coltrane's The Wise One, and wow. He asked me to write, and I was like, wow, like English is not my first language, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But somehow he just he encouraged me, and I'm so grateful, because afterwards it kind of like opened up, and I'm able to do that more now because of him.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But
I was gonna say maybe we can transition to what your guys' schedules look like nowadays as professional musicians in New York City. We could talk before COVID as well, because I know that COVID has really affected everyone in the music industry. But I'm just curious how you guys go on a daily schedule as artists in the city, maybe just pre-COVID times as well, and how much of your time is spent on creativity and producing art compared to the business, financial, promotional side of things.
Interesting. Well, you know, this whole thing really changed the game. I feel, of course, it's a complicated situation, but I was enjoying the beginning of the quarantine, I guess, especially because I felt I had the most time ever I had in New York for dedicating myself into the, you know, my craft, you know, like the creative process or just practicing. And I felt it has, you know, so much time. And I think that was positive probably for all of the musicians. Of course, there's a lot of struggling in other areas, and that's where you gotta find out how to continue with the game differently. But I guess the main difference for all of us, I'm sure, is regarding public concerts, right? Like we are more in the performance side of music, I think, and that cover a good part of our regular schedule, playing in the city or outside the city, and that really has changed, and we don't know when it's gonna go back to normal, because this doesn't seem to be like a short situation. And now in my case, I've been what I learned about this time in the quarantine is that you really need to schedule time for the creative stuff as well. Same as you schedule time for other stuff. I was learning how to do it more systematically, I guess. Everything that has to do with composition, and schedule time specifically for that. I guess that's my take on how the situation is bringing me into the creative side of things. Yeah.
You're also working with Bronx Music House with Juan and doing some recording.
Right. So exactly. So actually, I was showing Arta that I'm setting up a space here that I plan to use for recording, because that's one of the things that start doing the most. Recording a bunch of things. I did albums during the quarantine for other people, for other artists, and as well for myself. I started recording stuff that I wanted to do personally. So yes, that's one of the ongoing projects, is the Bronx Music House. Beautiful space where that's where Juan Diego lives, and we're trying to in that specific project we'd try to, I guess, showcase the diversity of stuff that we can do with Venezuelan music, because that's a place where there's another very important artist that lives there, is Jorge Glenn. Amazing, mind-blowing cuatro player, and that project is gathering a good amount of the Venezuelan artists living in New York. So it's very fun and interesting project going on there. And I guess, as many other also teachings become like a crucial part of the activities that we do now in our daily basis. And still, I'm still doing some performance, but it's not comparable to what we used to do before COVID. It seems to be more like private events, private stuff, very limited. So it's a different game. Yeah.
I think for me it was a little bit different because I was still at school. Like I graduated the school like when we were like inside the COVID, but like literally in March I was like just focusing on Letters to Home, the project that I was trying to finish for school, but also for as a performance. And I just like got off in a middle, literally actually before the performance, got closed. It was supposed to be like a multidisciplinary performance, Letters to Home, which basically was composed, my original music, which is based on the Latvian letters, like people that sent to, like the letters that people sent to each other, like the correspondence between them, and like talked about like immigration, talked about the sense of belonging, talked about love, friendships, like all of these different things that the letters can cover. And I basically composed the music for that, and my friend in Latvia, she created like these beautiful, and she's actually, we're still like working now since we have the time, creating like these beautiful like visual like visuals for this whole event. And then then in May the school ended, and that was the moment for me, like I was like, wow, like I'm actually like done with school and I can kind of start to live my life like live my life like without like the system, because when you're in school it's a system. I mean, I was still like traveling around and like doing a lot of like international things, but like it wasn't like so much. And like my plan for the summer was honestly to just like gather the more contacts and like actually go out and like play with people. That was like my big plan. I was like, I want to finally go to Smalls and hit until 4, like, or go like to just listen to concerts, because like when you're at school, like you're very, like for me it was like I was very like, I need to finish this. So so yeah, but like once the school ended, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take this time for myself, like what Baden was saying, which is very important. And I started to like just compose music. I tried to like look at like several different competitions or like whatever, like grants and something, and like send stuff in. So I have like these like tiny little goals for myself that are happening, because I know that will like make me go forward and like create like new ideas. And so yeah, that's what I've been like mainly doing, and like of course like teaching. And then I actually got very much into like video editing and stuff because of the jazz gallery.
I've
like
seen
lockdown.
Some of those you've done. Those are really nice. Those are very nice.
I'm still in the process of learning them, but I think the jazz gallery, like these lockdown sessions, really helped me to understand that like the music that I want to create is like more in this multidisciplinary art form.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I love to tell the stories, and I feel like it's very nice if I can find like a really like nice balance of like having the visuals in, or like something different.
I saw that like Coldplay cover you did. That was really nice. Yeah. The production was very cool too. You had the harmonizing of yourself. Very nice.
That tune, like I love it. Like I've known it like since I was a kid, and like I always had wanted to like to do, not a kid, but like maybe again teenager. I don't know, but like I always wanted to like write something for it, but it never happened. It just never came out. And then like one day, boom, it just got out, and it happened. But yeah, I really love it.
And Baden, you also have some very cool videos up as well on your YouTube channel, right? Maybe you could talk a little bit about those with some collaboration with other singers that you've had up.
Yeah. That's true. One cool thing about the videos, and that reminds me, Reggie, is that he in probably in our last year he took a year off and he went to Switzerland or something like that, somewhere in Europe.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Anyways, I did this video with my mentor, with Gerry Weil, the old guy that was, and we recorded it was just 2 pianos, and we did a blues composition of him. And I guess I spread out through WhatsApp. I sent like a like a message thing, and one day I got a phone call of Reggie. And so like I was like practicing in one of the new school rooms, and he called me. I was like, what? Like Reggie Workman. And I said, hey, how you doing, you man? And we started speaking, and he told me, I saw your video with your master, very cool. And so he talked about that video. So
never know who's watching, huh? Wow.
I mean, that's actually very true. Like you never know.
Absolutely.
So better like all the content you put out there is like you have to be like super sure what you're putting out there, because it can bring a positive or a negative impact like on you as an artist. Or I think this is like the trickiest thing about like living in this world or like this age, because like everybody knows everything about everyone, and even the stuff that you don't know about yourself, it's just
Reggie
like
could
out
be
there.
watching right now.
Yeah.
Well, if so, that like we both adore him and we love you.
Yes, exactly.
And,
but yes, I've been collaborating also with a Venezuelan singer. She has a beautiful voice, beautiful sound, and I have I have in my channel, I think, one video with her, which is a rendition of Venezuelan merengue, one of the 5 things that I have been speaking. And the other one, it's through the Bronx Music House.
Right.
With her as well. I think we talk about this particular one. I have other songs. I have an original that I wrote lyric for, which is not my usual approach into music. I work more instrumentally, but I've been interested lately in getting more through the process of writing lyrics as well. So there's one song in there that I dedicated to my home city, Caracas, which is the capital of Venezuela. and it's dedicated specifically, like that feeling of nostalgia.
Yeah.
So it's called like that, Nostalgia Caraqueña.
Very cool. And that's gonna be on the Bronx Music House YouTube channel?
No, that's on my
already
YouTube channel. That's an old video, and I was talking, because it's there.
Okay. So I'll after this I'll add a link in the description to Baden's YouTube channel and Arta's, and definitely Bronx Music House too, because that's very high quality productions from some of the city's best. You and Juan, and I think Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah.
Yeah, he's on some of those, and the audio is good, the video looks great. So live music in quarantine is happening, and very cool. I actually have to dip in honestly less than 5 minutes, but I wanted to make sure I got this in. Arta, you did your master's in Arts Management and Entrepreneurship, which is kind of an unorthodox choice for most performers. Most performers aren't even interested in that side of things. Just briefly, because I have to dip, but what led to that decision, and how do you plan on using that knowledge?
Well, it was interesting. So I got an offer to still continue to do the program, and I was like, why not? Why actually extend my knowledge in more a business side of music? Because honestly, now we kind of see how the music business is, how we are fragile. If we don't have this other outlet to use, how to know how to run your business. I mean, of course, everything has stopped, but understanding the basic things about the production, about sales, about marketing, about all these things that musicians don't want to talk about, don't want to they're scared of. There's the finances, but it's very crucial. And I think it's just for me, it was a choice, if I can get it, if I can learn from the people who work as artists, and if they can give me their approach and their knowledge into something like that, why not?
Of course.
Why not? Because I think we're always gonna benefit out from any other knowledge we're gonna get,
Absolutely.
And I think my plan for that is, I think I really, what I love about this, I think I really have changed in terms of how do I see music, how do I see every single production or thing that I'm running myself, how I think I have become a little bit better in leading projects, leading people, and I know how to pick the team because I've been doing that a lot. But I think this knowledge at the school and through these people, they have given me these tools, how to use these little things, and how can I benefit from having this knowledge. And but for the future, talking about, I would definitely one day I would love to create my own either artist residency and maybe my own record label, and but do it in that kind of sense that I really want to have it for the people, for all my friends, to have a place, as the same what you're doing, you're gathering your group of people together, your friends, and you want to help them to give this push and give them this opportunity to play music, to have beautiful sound and beautiful video. So I think the idea for me is kind of getting people together and just again record music, just have fun together, creating something. So it's this is the big, I think a longer term picture that I'm imagining myself doing at some point in my life. And I think I'm slowly I'm still I'm still understanding what is what I want.
Right. Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you come up with, and long-term time. It'll be here before you know it, unfortunately. But very much looking forward to seeing what you make of it. Let's end with our 90-second fire round of not so serious questions.
I'll get the timer on.
All right.
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
You ready?
No.
That's the first question. Are you ready? No.
All right. 3, 2.
So how does it work?
Well, me and Austin will just shoot questions at you guys. I'll have the timer. I could just put it on the screen so you see it. All right.
Oh God.
Ready. Favorite food?
Pasta.
Buckwheat.
Buckwheat?
Buckwheat, yeah, buckwheat with beets.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
What?
Jeez.
Favorite TV show?
Oh God. Actually, some Venezuelan
Really?
telenovela.
Oh my
but
God.
then I was a kid.
I didn't see
I
this
can't
coming.
remember. I can't remember. I know the name in Latvian, but I don't know it in English. But telenovela. Yeah.
Telenovela.
Wow.
No, it was 5.
I would say
Come on, we're halfway there.
Breaking Bad.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, you've been given an elephant, and you cannot give it away or sell it. What would you do with it?
Oh, it would be my muse. It would be my muse. I would compose.
It will be
Wow.
my transportation.
I like that. Okay. That was a good one. I'm trying to think of something good. I do not know. Austin, skip me. Do another one.
Man. If
Uh-oh.
uh-oh.
I think it's time almost.
Oh,
All right.
man.
That was a good one, though.
I was not prepared for you to skip, Mike.
All right. My bad.
Okay.
I confused them with the elephant.
That threw me off completely.
Oh, it's gonna be my muse, but honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Baden, Arta, it's been incredibly enlightening. Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad to make this happen.
Thank you, guys.
Again, tickets for the concert are in the description below, or you can find them at bravesound.org/shop. And you can find these two lovely people at Jēkabsone.com and badengoyo.com. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add, Mike?
No, I think that's it. I'm just really looking forward to checking you guys out on Sunday at 6 p.m. and super excited for how these different cultures and
Together.
excellent musicians will combine to create a beautiful product.
Cool.
Aw.
So
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you so much,
It
and
was a
thank you for
pleasure.
like putting this all together, like running the podcast. And I mean, I truly like when I look at both of you, and this is what I already like told you on Wednesday when we met for the first time, that like like you in such a young age, like doing these entrepreneurial things and like being musicians. I know you're gonna do big things, and I'm very happy that like I wish you like really the best of luck and like having like these little seeds, and I really look forward to seeing how they bloom in like big flowers, because I know I truly
thank
believe.
you, Arta. Thank you, Arta.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Well, to anybody listening live, we had a few people on here. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to send it to an outro, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.